Hi everyone, welcome back to the workshop. Following on from my last video on the EDC 501J voltage standard upgrade, I did mention in the video I had a couple of Keithley 2015 THD 6.5 digit multimeters, and this video is all about them. And here they are. I've got them side by side here. I'm not sure if you can pick it up in the video, but the one on the left has got a significantly dimmer display than the one on the right. And in fact, the one on the right is rather dim as well. It's not where it should be. So what have I gone ahead and done? I've bought a couple of replacement VFDs, the vacuum fluorescent displays, from Keithley, or Tektronix as they are now, direct from them. It costs about £53 each. So I've actually gone ahead and bought two, so I'm going to replace them. So in this video you'll see me tear down the one on the left here, because it's the worst one. We'll get it the tube replaced, and then we'll get it powered up again, and then we'll be able to compare it to the one on the right, and I'm hoping to see a significant difference on the brightness there. If it's anything like the Fluke 8842, which you'll see up here, I did the same thing on it. I replaced the display on it. Oh, I've not got any power on it. I replaced the display on it. So let's get down on the workbench and get it opened up. So first things first, let's get it opened up. I think we've got a couple of screws in the back there for starters. Back off, and on the underside there's a couple of screws at the back here, just little Phillips countersunk screws there, so I'll get them opened up. Slide the cover off. I've actually been inside both the units before, just when I bought them, just to see the state of the electrolytic caps on here, and also on the power supply on the underside, because I have heard that with age they do leak. In particular in this model of multimeter, they are prone to leaking and spilling out all the electrolyte onto the circuit board and corroding it. But having opened up both units, they do appear to be in good condition. There's no leakage at all, and there's no bulging of the caps at all. So rather than go ahead and replace them, I just left them the way they are. So anyway, that's the cover off. So I think the next thing to do is to disassemble the front end of it, because obviously that's where the display is, and we'll see what sort of access we've got. A couple of clips either side seem to be releasing the front of it. I haven't had this apart, so this is all new to me. And got a ribbon cable this side here. I think I'll actually pull that because it is rather tight. I think that's the actual display cable here. You can see a header on the board there running away down to display, and it is rather tight, so I can't really pull that side off. So we'll actually release the header, just make sure there's a key. There is, so we're no problem there. And I think we might be able to pull off the display again. There we go. Okay, that's it released. The only thing that's holding it back now is the actual wires to the phono, the 4mm banana sockets there, not the phonos. So they're soldered onto the board there. So we'll have to see what we can do to release them. Okay, well I'm not going to desolder them, but what I think I can do is I can unclip this. I think there must be a ferrite in there. I can unclip that ferrite and pull the whole lot around the side, because they're all soldered on there, and I might be able to work on it at the one side. So let's see if I can release this ferrite. There we go, that's sitting there. There it is there. Little ferrite clamp around the cables there. So that's it, and then we can move that around to the side, and I think that's well enough access there to the display. So the next thing is to try and see if I can release the display. We've definitely got a couple of clips. I'm going to zoom in on that. I do believe I've got a couple of clips at the bottom here holding the bottom end of the board. They look as if they just pull up. Oh yes, there we go. A little bit of gentle persuasion, I think, here. That's it, that's one of the clips out. And the next one, again, that's the other one, so I'll just lay them out on the bench there. And wow, that was easy. So that's the actual display board removed. As you can see, you've got the push button contacts there. We're on the overhead position now with the camera. So I think the first thing I'll do is, before I start ripping anything off, I think I'll get the new display alongside and just make sure I've been sent the right thing. So here we go, here's the two new displays. I've just unpacked them and we'll just compare them. That's round the wrong way. Oh, they're both in that way. So here we go, and if I put them alongside each other, I'll just go through the display and make sure they are the same. They've got the same legends on them, but the fonts and that look a little bit different. If I just zoom in here, so I think you can see, it must be from a newer model, or maybe just a newer rev of the display. You can actually see that the text, this is the existing one there, and the new one there, the fonts are a little bit different. They're not identical, but everything else, all the text does seem to be the same. Yeah, so it just must be a newer version of it. And they do look, all the actual internals of it as well look a little bit different as well. But the important thing is, as long as the pinout's the same and it operates in the same way, then I don't think there'll be a problem. So next thing is to get the old one off the board. So I'm actually going to use my desoldering gun. I'm not going to desolder this by hand. It's obviously soldered along the back on a single inline header there. So I will desolder that using my desolder gun, but I have read in the net there's a little bit of a challenge in regard to the displays actually stuck on as well to the PCB. There is a gap down in there, and I think there's some black double-sided tape that can be a bit of a challenge in getting the old one off. I've got new double-sided tape that I can stick the new one down, but I think I might have to heat up the board a little bit in order to soften the glue on the double-sided tape so that I can prise it off. But first things first, I'll run along the pads there and the pins and desolder them with the gun. Now whilst we're in here, whilst I'm waiting in the desolder gun heating up, I think it's important to note there is actually the ribbon cable header here. It does actually have quite a fine pitch on it, and the ribbon cable is actually bent round off of the board, as you can see there. So it's quite easy to just sort of bend it upwards by accident, and I'm going to try and avoid doing that, because like I said, it is actually a fine pitch there, and I don't want to have to make any repairs on the actual header itself. So I'm going to do my best not to touch that at all and just leave it as it is. So the first thing I'm doing here is actually making sure that my gun's actually clear, so I'm just putting some solder on the tip and operating it just in case the filter and all the rest of it needs cleaned up. I think it actually does need a little bit of a clean. So I do actually have a rod for cleaning it. Yes, it's definitely needing a clean. And the nozzle's actually clear, so I think it's probably the filter itself. So I'll take that apart and clean that before we go any further. Wow, that took some cleaning. I had to take the whole thing apart, and it was blocked in there, the filter was blocked, there's like a spring arrangement in there that collects the solder, that was all blocked as well, chock-a-block. Serves me right for not cleaning it so often. So here we go. I'll start at the bottom here. Okay, so there's all the pins desoldered, and if I take a look there, you can see, I can see basically blackness down through the sides of the pins. That's a good sign. That's telling me that the majority of the solder at least has been removed. And usually what I'll do now is wiggle the pins a little bit just to see if they're free, if there's any sticky ones, before I start actually trying to pull the display off the front of the board. We'll just do that now. Usually I like to use a little wee flat screwdriver and just give them a little push to the side, and you should at least see them. Yeah, and they are all looking like they're free. There's a couple of extra long pins up here, I don't know why, that were bent over. So I want to take a good look at them, and yes, they does all seem free. Don't think any of them need reworked at all. So the next thing to do now is I'm actually going to heat up the back of the board right away. I'm not going to try levering off the display. I'm at least going to put a little bit of heat on the back just to help the glue. Here's a trusty old heat gun. I think it's probably just a paint stripper really, so I've got to watch what I'm doing with the heat, but there we do, and get to work on the back of the board. There's probably enough heat there. It's quite hot in the fingers really. So what I'm going to do now is I'm not going to leave it straight away because I've heated up the board. What I'm actually going to do is just leave it for a couple of minutes to let the heat transfer through the board through to the other side. And it'll take a couple of minutes there. It is actually quite hot to touch. So I'll let the heat just transfer through the board until it meets basically the tape, and it starts to warm up the tape there. It's not, because that won't happen straight away. Okay, here's a moment of truth now. I've let it sit for a couple of minutes. I'm not going to use a screwdriver to lever it off, because basically the glass of the tube actually comes right down the side. There's no sort of bezel around it, and it's too easy to chip the glass using the screwdriver. So I'm actually going to use one of these spludgers that I got in a mobile phone repair kit a long time ago, and it's plastic, and so it should be a lot sort of better to use. It's going to be a lot safer to use and less chance of really chipping the glass. But if I break the glass or I chip it, then so be it. It's coming off anyway. I'll try and get it off in one bit. The other thing that I'm also going to use is I've got my glasses on, because I don't want tiny little shards of glass coming up into my face, but I wear glasses anyway, so just make sure they're in place before I do anything here. So let's try and see how we get on here with the display. And I'm also going to try and lever the display away from my face as well, you know, just to be on the safe side there. So I'm just like levering it, as you can see here, down towards the bench there, and it is actually moving right enough. Yep, I can see the tape there. In fact, I should be able to, you can see that there, that's coming up a treat there. And in fact I've managed to lift it, and you can see all the glue and the yucky stuff underneath, so I should manage now to basically grab it by hand, and there it is. That's it off in one nice piece. And in fact the glue is actually still quite sticky on the board, so I'll maybe have to think twice about using some new stuff. So there's the display, and all the pins are intact. There's no through-hole plating being pulled from the pins, and that's actually quite important, because the display has actually got tracks on the top side. There's virtually no tracks on the underside. It's all on the top side, so there is a risk if you pull the display off that you'll actually rip a track at the same time. And the telltale signs on the display once you've got it, if you've pulled the through-hole plating out, you will actually see a little circular sort of residue on the actual pins itself. So looking along the pins there's no residue at all. It came off pretty cleanly, and I didn't expect there to be, because it actually came away pretty easily. If I'd been ripping a hole out, a through-hole plating out, I would have sort of felt that. I know the kind of strain that you need to do that, and there was nothing like that. It came away pretty easily. So the next thing is to try and locate some double-sided tape. So I've got plenty of this really thin stuff here. In fact, even thinner stuff here. As you can see, it's in a nice roll there. And then I've got all this single-sided stuff here. And I don't think any of that's going to do the trick actually. I was hoping this was a little bit bigger than what I thought, but it's not really thick enough really, and I don't really want to layer it up. So I've actually found something else that's going to, it seems to be the right thickness, and it's a good old sellotape sticky fixers there, double-sided tape. So it is actually, you know, around about the same thickness that I need, so I think I'll put a few of them along there and that'll be good enough. So next thing, whilst it's still warm, is pull off the old double-sided tape. Well, that's come off nicely. And the board's still pretty sticky, so it's actually going to give the new pads quite a bit of a helping hand there. So I'll just line up some of these pads. I think I'll put 4 of them vertically along the board. 1, 2, 3, and last one. 4. Sure, that'll be good enough there. So before I pull off the top sides, I'm just going to offer up the new display here, and we'll see. And make sure it all lines up. And there it is there. And as you can see, straight from the factory, and what a state the pins are in. So I've a little bit of a lining up job to do there, so I'll have to be careful when I line up those pins. And you can see the underside there is nice and flat to accept the new fixers. There's a bit of a sticker on there, but I'm not that bothered about that. So there's some pins missing from the centre holes, but that's fine because that's meant to be like that. So let's offer her up and see how we get on. Yeah, it's miles out, so I'm going to have to straighten these pins. So we'll start there. So I'm bending the pins not at the base because I don't want to put any stress on the actual display itself, because it is just glass after all. It's quite brittle glass at that. So I'll just, that pins there are really bent a lot. In fact, the base of this pin at the end here is bent, so I'm hoping that doesn't cause too much of a problem. And this end here is bent a little bit, probably from about. And that might be enough there, a bit better. So let's offer her up, see what goes on. A couple of them don't line up, so just to get them in position. Yeah, that's going to be okay, so I think I'll pull it back out and I'll take off the pads. The top sides of the pads. And then get the display. I'll have one shot at this. I don't really want to have to pull the display off the sticky pads, so once it goes down, that's it. I'm kind of wiggling the display backwards and forwards, and it kind of locates one pin at a time, apart from the very last pin, of course, which is refusing to line up. And that's it. So now I'll just pull it out by accident there, so I'll now just settle it down onto the sticky fixers nice and evenly there, and a little bit of light pressure just to get it Well, that's nicely located there. Yeah, that doesn't look too bad. So the next thing to do is solder up the pins. And there we go. Next thing to do is cut the pins off, shorten them. And there we go, that's the display all ready to go back onto the unit. Oh, see if I can remember how it went back together again. Oh, just make sure the display is clean, inside of the bezel's clean. And there we go. Okay, so that's the board laid in under its clips at that side there, and I just got the front panel, the clips there to go in. That's one in. And that's the second one in, so that's by all accounts the display. Just making sure I'm getting good reaction from the pads, none of them are stuck down or anything like that, so it appears to be okay. So I think now, bring the display around, and get back in. There we go. Took a bit of locating the actual input switch and the power button, which is basically just two great big rods that run into the unit there, and they've got to come through the panel, but they're quite loose when the panel's off, so it took a little bit of locating there, and that's it now. And then I've got the clips that are located now onto the sides there, so that's basically done now. So the next thing to do is I'll put back on the ferrite core. See if we can get that. I shoot this down. Of course. Shoot it first. Okay, then. That's it. That's basically mark. So what I think I'll do now is I'll oh sorry, I nearly forgot the header. I'm going to work without that. So that's the header in. So I think what I'll do now is I'll just I'm going to assume it's all going to be okay. So I'm actually going to slide back on the cover. One last minute look as I do so, make sure everything's located, the ribbon cable's all nicely done, everything else looks okay, nothing's been caught. Slide back on the cover. And then I won't bother with the back just yet, but I'm going to put in the two screws on the underside just to stop the cover moving around. That's that one done, so I think I'm ready for power up now. Here we are in position on the workbench. You're seeing this for the first time with me, so we've got the old displays, the units working away there, so we can see that on. So let's put the power on in this one. And success! There we go. A nice bright display. And yes, it is. It's a touch brighter than the other one. I don't know if you can pick that up in the video, but it's certainly a lot better than it was. This one was the worst one of the two, so yes, it is. You know, looking at the display, I'm not sure if you can pick that up there, but yes, and I don't know if you can pick that up the same as I can, but the actual individual segments on each one of the digits there, this one compared to this one here, these digits here, the segments are a little bit thinner, and I'm not sure if that's just a just the brightness of, you know, dimmed down slightly. It's not you know, giving out as much light there, but certainly there is a little bit of a difference, not just the brightness but the actual width of the digits. This being a newer display, as we saw when we had them apart, the definitely it was a different version, let's say, or rev of the actual display itself. So I'm quite happy with that. It means I'll be able to read it a bit better from where I'm standing down here, a bit lower down, because I want to use these up on the workbench. They're actually quite high. They're just over my head height there, so it'll mean I'll be able to make a little bit better use of them. Not sure if you can pick up in the video, but the actual bezels themselves are actually quite dirty looking, and I think they've been hit by the sunlight. There's actually sunlight marks along the top of this one here. I have actually ordered from Keithley or Tektronix a new bezel, because you can actually buy them. It's a little bit expensive, but I thought I'd just get one of them at least with a nice new bezel, and I chose actually to do this one. That's why one of the reasons why I did the display in this one here. So quite happy with that. I'm going to go away and do the other display here and get the display changed out in that one there. But if you like the video, give it a thumbs up, and thanks for watching.